Well, hello, everyone, depending on where you are watching and listening from. I don't know if it's good morning for you, good afternoon, or perhaps even good evening. But welcome to our virtual concert this wonderful Christmas Eve. I can think of nothing better I would rather be doing right now than spending this day making music with such talented and driven musicians. It is not an exaggeration for me to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed and been inspired by working with all of these fine young men and women. And I hope that you will feel joyful and inspired by the concert that we are going to present to all of you today. This is my first time doing a live virtual experience. I've done virtual concerts, but we've never all been playing at the same time. And so I think in this time where it's very disconnecting, it's very tempting to take a break from music, and people would understand because we can't do it in normal ways. But it's such an inspiration and so energizing that we are all here playing music together. So thank you, musicians of the orchestra, and thank you, friends and family, for spending some time listening and watching to us today. This is sort of a twofold concert where we are playing live right now with a backing track, and then there's going to be another polished video of this concert where you'll be able to hear everybody individually as well. I want to thank Dr. Chung, who is not only doing all of the technological mastery today to make this possible, but has really done such a wonderful job with this orchestra. I am able to come in and guest conduct so smoothly based on all the work that he's done and the tradition that he has put forth with this orchestra. So big, big thanks to Dr. Chung today. We are starting with a piece called For Unto Us. It is from a very, very famous work called Messiah by Handel, very popular during this time of year. It's a wonderful piece that takes 2.5 to 3 hours to perform in its entirety. We will only play one movement, the For Unto Us, a Child is Born, that is particularly played during this holiday season. Handel wrote this piece in 3 weeks. He sequestered himself in his apartment, barely ate, barely saw anybody, and composed this wonderful gem of a piece. It's from the Baroque period, and so we've been rehearsing a lot of Baroque techniques for our various players, and we're putting them together in this piece. So I hope you enjoy For Unto Us, a Child is Born. We'll get that queued up, and we will be glad to perform it for you today. Thank you, everyone. Our next piece on the program features such a talented young musician. It has just been such a pleasure to hear Yoojin Lee on the cello. We are going to be performing the Dvorak Cello Concerto, first movement. And this is a concerto that Dvorak wrote very much towards the end of his life. And it was almost as if he was trying to say everything he could before he died. And so it's a very long concerto. And we're only performing the first movement today, but even the first movement is pretty long. So we are doing a little bit of an abridged version. And I'm very grateful to, again, Dr. Chung. It is his abridgment, and it works very well. And one of the things that is very tricky about this concerto, in addition to the cello part, which is really professional level advanced playing. So it's always great to hear such a young, talented musician play. But the orchestra part is very, very difficult. This is a piece from the Romantic period. And during the Romantic period, there is a lot of changes in tempos. And with all the changes in tempos, it becomes very hard for us all to play together, even in a live format, but especially in a format like this. So we really had to work this hard, and this has been an exercise in our listening skills and really stretching and working those muscles of really paying attention to parts that are not just our own, but everybody else's line, which I think is such a powerful skill that is going to serve everybody tremendously well once we get back to more live in-person playing. So I would love to give a round of applause to our cello soloist, Yoojin Lee, as she takes the virtual stage. And please enjoy our performance of the first movement of Dvorak's beloved cello concerto in B minor.
Applause for our amazing cello soloist, Yoojin Lee. Brava. Fantastic. Way to go. Amazing. The next piece on our program is a classic, The Little Drummer Boy. And this is a piece that actually was written not that long ago in the context of everything, back in the 1940s. And
this piece has some great techniques in it. One of those techniques is called col legno. There's technically two types of col legno, and col legno means to play a string instrument instead of using the hair, but to use the stick, with the stick. And often when we say col legno, we actually mean col legno battuto, which means to hit with the stick. So at the very beginning, we all get to be drummers, and we get to hit our strings with the stick of our bow, for those of us who are string players. And so it has been really fun to kind of dive into these different techniques. We play music for all sorts of different reasons, but especially with growing young musicians, we like to play different music that has different types of skills in it. So sometimes I'll talk a little bit about the music itself, the composer, and other times there are some special skills that we are growing through by getting a chance to practice. And that is one of the things that we have in the Little Drummer Boy. So we will play this for you. Hopefully you will enjoy it. Excellent. Our next piece on the program is by a Baroque composer, so same time period as Handel was from the first piece that we performed for you from Messiah. And this is a concerto grosso. And a concerto grosso is a kind of a fancy way of saying a concerto that features a group of soloists. In this case, it's a group of 2 violinists. And we actually are featuring 3 violinists, and we're featuring them in a really interesting way. So in the first movement, we have 2 soloists from the orchestra. We have Kielor Tung and also Daniel Young, who are doing such a great job really bringing the energy to this piece, and I love it so much. And then in the second movement, we have 2 new soloists, but it's 1 person. We have Emily Kim playing both solo parts at the same time. How cool is it that we can do things like this because of this format? I love the creativity that we're able to do. Antonio Vivaldi, like I said, lived in the Baroque period. He is sometimes known as the Red Priest because he had red hair, and he was not only a composer, he was a violinist, and he was a priest. He was a priest that had asthma, and because of that, he got excused from having to recite the Mass. So he spent a lot of his time composing. He wrote so many different types of concertos that he has received some criticism. Some people say that he didn't write 500 concertos. He wrote the same concerto 500 times. And it's just not true. I don't believe it to be true. I love his music. I love all of his concertos. They've actually done some scientific studies that have analyzed his music to make sure he wasn't just sort of writing the same thing over and over again in a different way. They're all unique. But if you think you've heard all the Vivaldi concertos, you have not. There are over 500. So if you like Vivaldi, there's plenty to keep you busy on those playlists. This particular piece that we're going to play, his Opus 3 number 8, Concerto Grosso, is in 3 movements. We will play them what we call in the music business a tocca, which is a fancy way of saying one after the other without stopping. So if you're at home and you like to clap after a piece, hold your applause until the end of the 3rd movement. I'll show it to you, but because we're on the Zoom, if you mess up and clap when you're not supposed to, hey, no big deal. So without further ado, hope you enjoy Vivaldi's Concerto Grosso with our wonderful violin soloist. Well, bravi to all of our soloists. Let's give them all a hand. Again, Kielor and Daniel and Emily. Wow, way to go. So difficult to time and to play that musically and with such a beautiful sound. So wonderful, wonderful. The next piece on our program is called Classic Sleighride. I'm sure everybody is familiar with a very, very popular sleigh ride that we often hear played everywhere as we go about town, going to the grocery store and shopping this time of year, or perhaps on the radio. But this is a different sleigh ride. It's called Classic Sleighride. This sleigh ride was not by Leroy Anderson, as the very, very popular one is, but by Leopold Mozart. And if you're thinking Mozart, was Mozart's first name really Leopold? Well, our very famous Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, this was his father. So his father was also a composer. He was a very, very good violinist. He even wrote a book about playing the violin that people still consult today. And he wrote this piece called Classic Sleighride. So he wasn't writing a sleigh ride piece about some nostalgic experience that we see often in Hallmark movies and things like that. I think they actually rode on sleigh rides. They had to get from point A to point B on a sleigh or in a carriage. So he was writing about that experience in the wintertime. So in here, you'll definitely kind of hear that spirit of being drawn in a sleigh with horses. And some of that kind of pitter-patter type of sound. You'll hear some sleigh bells, which we definitely need to bring the holiday spirit. And you'll also hear even kind of some shivers, because he was trying to emulate what it was like to be a passenger in a sleigh ride during that time. This piece was actually written 1 year before Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born. So Mozart, the one that we normally know, he had to wait a couple years maybe to hear this piece, but this is by his father, Leopold Mozart, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it puts you in the holiday spirit. Classic Sleigh Ride. Well, I hope that put you in the holiday spirit if you weren't there already. I'm gonna try to fix my earpiece while I'm talking with all of you. But this next piece that we are going to perform for you today is by Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, actually. And this particular Mozart is the one that we all kind of famously know, of course. And he wrote really 4 different horn concertos. Sometimes we think that he only wrote 3 because he has 3 that were complete and then 1 that was incomplete. And it's actually this horn concerto. It's considered horn concerto number 1, even though it was his last horn concerto. He didn't finish it before he died, and a student actually had to finish it for him. This is a piece that is a professional level concerto. And I've really had the pleasure of seeing a lot of growth in this piece. Our soloist, Suzy Belik on the French horn, is just doing a fantastic job. And she also had the opportunity to participate in a special horn clinic this past week. And I was so pleased to be able to listen in on part of that. And it was just really fascinating for me as a non-brass player to kind of hear some tips and tricks and like great educating remarks from Lisa McCormick, who is, I believe, playing today. And it was just so wonderful to get a little bit of a glimpse into that. So without further ado, we are going to perform for you the first movement of Mozart's Horn Concerto number 1 with the wonderful Suzy Belik on the horn solo. Let's give a round of applause for our excellent horn soloist, Suzy Belik. Way to go. Wonderful. So good. Okay, the next piece on our program this afternoon is the Farandole March of Three Kings. And this is by Georges Bizet, who is a French composer. You probably know him most famously from his opera called Carmen. Bizet didn't live that long. I think he made it to age 36, if I'm not mistaken. But this particular piece is sort of a little bit of a mashup. It's got some Bizet in it, but he also takes a melody called March of Three Kings, which is a 13th century melody, and he puts it into this piece, which is why we often play it around the holiday season. This is a piece that has some interesting things that are trickier than you might think upon hearing it. It has a really characteristic rhythm, this yum, bum, bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. And on a string instrument, we've had to talk a little bit about what we do with our bow, because if we just play like this, dum, bum, ba-bum, 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 we run out of bow. There's no more bow left. So we have to do some interesting things involving what we call retakes. It's a little bit more of an advanced technique. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that we go really, really quickly and do these kind of bow circles in order to play this in a really professional way. So we've spent some time talking about that, and I think it will pay off in our performance of the March of Three Kings, also known as the Farandole by Georges Bizet. Hope you enjoy. Okay, this next composer that we are going to play a piece for you from, his name is Cimarosa, and he is an Italian composer, probably not as well known as some of the other composers on this particular concert, like Mozart, for example, but really wrote some really great music. Italian, as you would expect with a name like that. His first name was Domenico, so Domenico Cimarosa, and he wrote some operas that probably got more fame than his other pieces, but he wrote this delightful flute concerto, which is played by a really talented young musician today, Allison Kuan. And not only is she playing a solo part, she's playing two solo parts. As a musician, I don't know if any of you are musicians, but if you have to play a concerto, it's a lot of preparation. If you have to learn two concerto parts, it's an exceptional amount of preparation, and she has done that. She's learned both the Flute 1 and the Flute 2 parts. This composer, Cimarosa, he got active in politics a little bit, got himself into some trouble, and he was going to be put to death, but instead people kind of got really upset and begged that he not be put to death, so he just kind of got banished from the country, thanks to his fan club in music. So this is the 2 Flute Concerto. This is the last movement, the rondo, that we will be performing for you today with the talented Ms. Allison Kuan playing Flute 1 and Flute 2 solo parts. Hope you enjoy. Wonderful. Congratulations, Allison Kuan. Beautiful playing with those two tricky flute parts. My goodness. All right, as we move to our next piece, I find that a lot of people, when asked what their favorite Christmas song is or what their favorite holiday favorite is, "O Holy Night" seems to come up many times. And we have a talented singer with us today, and her name is Maxine Park. And I think you will find that her voice is just so lovely and so beautiful. And this particular version of "O Holy Night" probably has similar things to what you are used to hearing and some different twists and turns. There are a lot of key changes in here, so everybody has to really watch out and make sure that they catch all of those. And as a vocalist, it's tricky to do a lot of these different key changes. And Maxine is just doing such a great job, and so are the rest of the orchestral musicians as well. This was a piece that was kind of commissioned to celebrate a church that had a new organ installation. And sometimes when we celebrate things nowadays, maybe we have a party, we eat some cake, but back in the day, sometimes they would have somebody write a poem and then write a piece of music. And so "O Holy Night" is something that sort of came out of the, I believe, mid-19th century or so, to celebrate kind of a milestone in a church in France. So I hope you enjoy today a classic Christmas song, "O Holy Night," with the talented and wonderful Maxine Park singing the vocal solo.
O holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of the dear Saviour's birth. Long lay the world in sin and ever pining, till he appeared and the soul felt its worth.
Well, wow, so beautiful. That singing from our very own Maxine Park. So beautiful. Thank you. Let's give her a round of applause. That is wonderful. We have 3 more pieces left for you in this concert. And this is one that it's going to be hard to sit still while you listen to this. So because we're not in a formal concert hall where it would be socially unacceptable to kind of get up and dance. So if you feel so moved, feel free to kind of dance around to this one. This one is called Jingle Bells Hoedown, and it is just so much fun. One of the unique things that I have learned during this experience is rehearsals look a lot different when we're rehearsing over computer and so many people are muted. So I will kind of go through different people and ask them to demonstrate things so I can get a feel to how they're playing, to make sure that we're all on the same page with bowing, fingerings, style, articulation, all sorts of different things. And I'm gonna put this person on the spot and just kind of compliment this person, but Aiden Kim demoed a lot in this piece. I picked on him a lot in the best of ways, and oh my goodness, you can't hear him live today, but man, oh man, is there a hoedown spirit in his violin playing. So I really, really have appreciated that. So this involves the very popular Jingle Bell tune, Jingle Bells, and it's an arrangement by Robert Kerr. And Robert Kerr is a composer, he's a musician, he's an arranger. And I thought, what is a person who writes such a peppy, joyful piece? I wonder what their life is like. Well, it makes sense because Robert Kerr also works full-time as a violinist at the one and only Disney World. So talk about some happiness and joy that he has in his life that he gets to bring to people. And I think he puts that into his music as well. So you are going to hear a wonderful and fun rendition of a piece called Jingle Bells Hoedown, arranged by the one and only Robert Kerr. I hope you enjoy. Wonderful. How much fun was that? I hope you are having a good time. Usually in rehearsals, if we had a good run, we do a thumbs up. We use our thumbs, and I hope everybody had a super thumbs up on that one. I'm seeing myself spotlighted here, so maybe I'll tell you where I am. This is not my living room. That would be kind of awesome, but yet weird. I'm coming to you from a place called the Digitorium on the campus of Northern Kentucky University, where I work as director of orchestras, and I'm also assistant professor of cello here at NKU, which is actually just across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio. So it's so much fun to be here in Cincinnati, Ohio, actually in Northern Kentucky, Highland Heights, and be able to simultaneously work with so many people that are on the opposite side of the country. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity and for the wonders of technology that make something like this possible. Our next piece, we have, again, soloists. Wow, so many talented soloists today to perform for you. We have two pianists. Their names are Ashlyn Bendorf and Grace Hugh, and they are so talented. The thing that really, I think, elevates them from just any other talented pianist is they have such a handle and elegance in the classical style and the style of Mozart. It really is a mature style of playing that you don't always hear from younger musicians, and we're going to hear that today, and it's just wonderful. This is a piece for two piano solos. Originally, it was actually for three solo pianos, and then later Mozart revised it for two piano soloists. So it is really just a delightful piece in the classical repertoire featuring wonderfully talented young musicians, and I hope you enjoy the first movement of Mozart's two piano concerto today. Well, wow. Bravi to our soloist, Ashlyn Grace. Fantastic playing. Wow, such a pleasure and an honor to have you soloing with us today. We have one more piece for you this afternoon. And what type of holiday concert would be complete if we didn't have a holiday medley, a sing-along medley? And that's exactly what we're going to do for you today. But before we get to that, I want to take a moment to thank all of our musicians in the orchestra. It has been just such a pleasure and an honor to get to work with you, to get to see you and interact with you, to get to journey along together making music in this type of a way. Thank you especially to some of our faculty, professionals who are also playing in the orchestra today and have been helping these young musicians on their journey to learning these parts. A big thank you to the entire administrative team of the LA Youth Philharmonic Orchestra, and a special thanks to Dr. Yoojin Chung, who is, I can tell, the backbone of this orchestra. I hope you're clapping loudly in your living rooms or wherever you are. Really, I've worked with so many different people during the context of my musical career, and he really has been such a dream and a wonderful person to work with, and just such a lovely, compassionate human being. Parents, family, friends, wow, thanks for spending your time with us. Thanks for your support with all of these young musicians. I imagine there are a lot of you in the room with them, pressing record, and will be doing all sorts of things on the computer, uploading, downloading, trimming, Dropboxing, and that takes a lot of work, but you know what? It's worth it. So many people would take a break during this time, and these young musicians are choosing to play music. I bet they've already finished their kind of academic studies for this semester, and they're here because they love music. And I want all of you to know that you're doing such an inspirational thing. You're inspiring others by playing music, and how wonderful also that not only are we inspiring just through music itself, but we're also collaborating with Food for the Hungry. And I think that's such a wonderful thing to do, and such a wonderful thing to remember, that we can use and leverage our time and our talents and our passion to help others. And I think that's a really powerful thing that we're doing here today. So I thank you for that. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. I hope you are prosperous and joyful in the new year. And I hope we meet again. Should you find yourself in the area of Northern Kentucky, please stop by and say hello at Northern Kentucky University. It would be my honor and my pleasure to see you again. So we get to our finale. Here we go.